InvestorIdeas.com podcast.
Good afternoon and welcome to another episode of InvestorIdeas.com podcast. Today's podcast is sponsored by Cannabis Swiss Corporation, trading on the OTC as CSUI, a fully licensed cannabis cultivation and distribution company in Switzerland for recreational tobacco products and medical CBD oils. And Cannabis Swiss products are laboratory tested to ensure that the end users have access to a standardized, safe, and consistent product. And Cannabis Swiss Corp currently sells via a distribution network of Swiss retailers and online shops under the retail brand Alpine Cannabis. In today's podcast, we're going to be looking at a few public company announcements from VIVO Cannabis Incorporated, trading on the TSX as VIVO and the OTCQX as VVCIF. Cronos Group Incorporated, trading on the NASDAQ and the TSX as CRON. MRMD Incorporated, trading on the OTCQX as MRMD, as well as Maple Leaf Green World Incorporated, trading on the NEO as MGW and the OTCQB as MGWFF. So first starting with VIVO Cannabis, who announced it's begun its 2020 season harvest at its Kemet facility in Napanee, Ontario, in the largest of the company's history. Very pleased to say that this year's crop has exceeded our expectations, with some of our plants reaching a height of over 12 feet, said Barry Fishman, the CEO of VIVO. As the only Canadian licensed producer currently using air house technology, the success of the crop both validates our strategic decision to invest in the air houses and demonstrates the capabilities of our highly talented Napanee team. Now, the Kemet facility consists of 4 air houses with a total of 75,000 square feet of cultivation space, containing approximately 10,000 plants. And the harvest, which will start 1 week ahead of schedule due to accelerated plant growth, began with trimming the sections with the largest flowers. Now, the use of airhouse technology results in more reliable cannabis compared with outdoor growing, as it mitigates the risk of weather and pest events that can easily destroy an entire outdoor crop. And its benefits over outdoor grow can also improve light quality, controlled airflow, humidity, and the ability to use supplemental heat to extend the growing season as required. Air houses are expensive to erect, easy to sanitize, and simple to maintain, and VIVO has the capacity to install additional air houses in a short time frame with relatively low capital requirements on its 50-plus acre property. Now, VIVO now expects to yield approximately 4,000 kilograms from the harvest, and some of the harvest will be packaged and sold as dry flower, and the remaining biomass will be extracted in the company's recently commissioned ethanol extraction hub that has the capacity of handling up to 500 kilograms of biomass per week. And after the extraction, the company will process the biomass into a diverse portfolio of Cannabis 2.0 products. And currently, VIVO has agreements to sell adult use products in 8 provinces across Canada and holds a market leadership position in the concentrate category. So VIVO Cannabis is going to be having one of their largest harvests in the company's history so far. And that's a similar thing that we've heard from several companies this year, whether they're in the outdoor grow or indoor grow space. A lot of these companies are now starting to hit capacity for the grow and actually reach above that capacity. And how I think this is going to start affecting things, it's been a really slow buildup, obviously, over the last 2 years for the Canadian recreational market. There's been lots of inconsistencies with the product that's hitting the markets, lots of over-dried product, lots of product that's not quite hitting the THC and CBD levels that's required, and really just also inconsistency with supply and demand. Whereas I think now we're going to start seeing is a little bit more stability. These companies are getting used to what sort of yields they should expect, what they can do with this plant biomass besides just using it for dried flower, also turning it into extracts and 2.0 products. And again, this is a similar story that we've heard from several companies this year, with their harvests being record harvests, both in the US and Canada. And I do think that you're going to continue to see this over the next 2 to 3 years as grow levels are just going to keep rising as not only the technology becomes more affordable, but also you have to think of all these teams getting more and more experience, more and more understanding and knowledge under their belts, and are going to start to really... Most companies are using some sort of new form of growing technology in a combination with old school methodology. And now everyone's starting to actually see which has the better results and better yields from this. So I do think that obviously the airhouse technology has shown some great yields then for VIVO Cannabis. And you might see other companies start implementing that. But I do think in general what you're just going to see is a little bit more consistency and quality levels going into the Canadian rec market over the next couple of years, which is only going to help things for the overall market. You might see some price drops eventually happen as well. And hopefully you'll start to see a little bit more quality in the extract market included. Looking next at Cronos Group Incorporated, who announced the launch of its leading medical brand Peace Naturals in pharmacies throughout Israel through Cronos Israel. Now, Cronus Israel's operations include the cultivation and production of Pete's Naturals branded products at the company's facility is located in Kibbutz Gan Shimal in Israel. Now, currently, Cronus Israel sells dried flower in the medical market and expects to launch cannabis oils and pre-rolls in the near future. As one of the first medicinal cannabis brands in Canada, established in 2013, Peace Naturals has always stood for high-quality products and a whole health approach to patient care. Now, to maintain consistency, Cronos Israel has imported both dry flower and cannabis plant cuttings from Canada, and the Cronos Israel facility now operates independent crop cycles which conform to the characteristics of the products in the company sells in the Canadian and Germany, and which products are sold in Australian and the company's investees Cronos Australia Limited. Now, we're very excited to be launching in the Israeli market and bringing high-quality medical products to patients. Israel has done a tremendous job creating a viable and successful cannabis market, and there's a focus on improving and expediting the patient access product across the medical cannabis. And the cannabis usage rate in Israel is among the highest in the world, and the medical patient count in Israel is expected to increase rapidly, which represents an excellent opportunity for our business to grow in this market, said Mike Gorenstein, the executive chairman of Kronos Group. So Kronos Group obviously launching more of their Peace Naturals in the Israeli market and expanding in Israel. I do think it's interesting that they're bringing in their Canadian crops to have consistency over their product. I think that's a smart play. I think that's going to be one of the few things that's able to differentiate them within the Israeli market. Obviously, price and quality are going to be difficult to compete against, as Israel does have its own producers now who are producing quite high quality plants, and also doing it for quite a low cost by comparison. But I do think that there's going to be different levels of quality and expectation, and as well, having a global brand is definitely just a good play for Kronos over time to have consistency and quality, the McDonald's effect, if you will, over the cannabis industry in its multiple markets will show that not only they can maintain consistency, but also that they're going to be a little bit ahead of the game when it comes to import exportation and sort of crossing genetics with these plants, as they have found some difficulties, and I'm sure Kronos has dealt with some of those in moving plants from different areas and different environments. Next, looking at MRMD, who launched a new line of solventless concentrates under its Nature's Heritage brand. The live rosin is a highly concentrated solvent-free cannabis hash oil where terpenes and cannabinoids are largely preserved from the natural plant. And these Nature's Heritage concentrates will be available in rotating varieties of sativa and indica and hybrid strains. Our live rosin concentrates will provide the best option for the most discerning cannabis consumers and patients in Massachusetts, said Ryan Crandall, the Chief Product Officer and SVP of Sales at MRMD. We made a strategic decision to produce this ultra-premium product based upon strong demand for solventless, flavorful, pure, and potent cannabis concentrates from a growing group of consumers. Adding live rosin and other advanced concentrates to our product portfolio will significantly expand our market share and revenue going forward. Now, Nature's Heritage has already established itself as one of the top-selling and most sought-after flower brands in Massachusetts and Maryland. The company is now building on that success with the launch of the live rosin and additional products, including other concentrates, a variety of RSO products, vaporizers, pre-rolls, and coming to the market over the next several months, all within the Nature's Heritage brand. So obviously now in Massachusetts, you're starting to see live rosin pop up. Live rosin really starting to make its play in most of the markets now, including the Canadian market and in some of the, I guess, further behind U.S. markets. Obviously within California and Nevada, there's already a decent amount of all those next generation products. But you are starting to see live rosin become a little bit more of a sought after product, similarly to how hash has also been starting to pop up more in markets, just due to the fact that not a lot of these producers or companies are creating hash-based products. Similarly, a lot of them were going right for the solvent use concentrates. A lot of people focusing more on the shatter, the wax, the distillate tips, rather than the live rosin concentrates. But now we're starting to see, especially as consumers become more aware of what the benefits of live rosin are, what the differences are between a, for instance, solvent-based extract versus a solventless extract, the difference in flavor, the difference in the terpene levels, and also for medical patients, this is a much more natural process for them to get their higher dose products and also get all those terpenes that are going to help the overall entourage effect. So I do expect that you're going to start to see a little bit of a transition where companies aren't going to strictly have as much of the, again, solvent-based concentrates we've seen out on the market right now. I think there's a pretty competitive amount of SKUs available for both hash oil, again, any of the distillates, as well as you're starting to see shatter and wax. And I do think you're going to start to see a few more companies pop up with some sort of live rosin variation in the next couple of months, whether again in the Canadian or US market. And hopefully that trend continues, just because as well as far as overall preference and quality, I do think live rosin is definitely the better choice in a lot of ways. Obviously, there's a lot of debate out that, especially in the dabbing community, but there are a lot of benefits to it. And in general, it's a much more natural and sort of pure version of what you're expecting. Lastly, today, looking at Maple Leaf Green World, who announced that it's been granted California Department of Food Agriculture approval for THC testing. Now, THC testing is mandated by the state of California to ensure that the crop being harvested does not exceed the legal limit of 0.3% THC. And a component of the pre-harvest THC testing involves random samples, many of the company's 5 greenhouses for outdoor grow to be taken by the Agricultural Commissioner for lab testing. And so far, the company reported that the CFDA lab reported test results of less than 0.3% THC, and that with the CDFA approval, that the company can now officially sell its La Creme hemp products. Now, the company is continuing to harvest and cure its La Creme, and the COA sampling collected on October 2nd of this year still indicates a pure CBG flower, with the CBG concentration increasing to 15.44% from the previous COA of 13.9. And although this level of CBG is marketable and higher than most strains on the market, the company is still aiming to target an 18 to 20% range on the fully cured flower. So again, I've talked about CBG products. This is going to be one of the first CBG sort of hemp products that's available to customers. The La Creme product is going to be coming out soon, and it is going to be interesting to see how overall consumer demand goes towards CBG products as opposed to CBD products, what the difference is with efficacy and what the overall perception is of these products. I do think they're going to have a pretty good boom of initial sales, as I think there's lots of people looking for these alternative cannabinoid treatments, and pretty much putting some sort of CB, even if it's a G or a D, in front of any sort of hemp product, you're most likely guaranteed to sell it right now. But it'll again be interesting to see how they're trying to market this and to which consumer demographics they're specifically aiming for, and also if that consumer demographic is aware of the CBG potential and that they should be looking for these products. So again, that'll be kind of the next thing to expect over the next couple of years, is to see CBG and some of those other microcannabinoids start to compete for shelf space against CBD products, and to see what the overall perception is and what the overall demand is for each of these microcannabinoids. That's all for today's podcast. Enjoy the rest of your day. And once again, today's podcast was sponsored by Cannabis Swiss Corp, trading on the OTC as CSUI, a fully licensed cannabis cultivation and distribution company in Switzerland for recreational tobacco products and medical CBD oils. And Cannabis Swiss Corp currently sells via distribution network of Swiss retailers and online shops under the retail brand Alpine Cannabis. That's all for today's podcast. Podcast is now a certified word trademark on the blockchain through Cognate Incorporated CM certification. InvestorIdeas.com podcasts are also available on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play Music, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Spreaker, and TuneIn. If you'd like to be a guest or sponsor of this podcast, please contact InvestorIdeas.com. Investor Ideas reminds all listeners to read our disclaimers and disclosures on the InvestorIdeas.com website, and this podcast is not an endorsement to buy products or services or securities. Investors are reminded that all investments involve risk and possible loss of investment. Investor Ideas does not condone the use of cannabis except where permissible by law. Our site does not possess, distribute, or sell cannabis products.